By the mid-16th century, the Mughal Empire was functioning as a systematic expansionist machine. It was rapidly absorbing independent kingdoms across the Indian subcontinent, integrating them into a single, centralized administration. For the Rajput states in the path of this advance, the choice was binary. They could surrender their sovereignty to gain high-ranking imperial status and immense wealth, or they could resist and face total military destruction. While other kingdoms chose the path of integration, the young heir to Mewar, Maharana Pratap, was developing in a different environment. We find him not in a palace, but in the dark, rocky wilderness of the Aravallis. This was his training ground. In these hills, traditional courtly education was replaced by daily exposure to sharp rocks, dense brush, and the physical demands of the high desert. This severe childhood isolation provided the necessary conditioning for what was to come. It built the physical and psychological threshold required to sustain a total resistance against imperial assimilation. As the question of succession arose, that resistance created immediate friction within the royal court. Intense political pressure mounted to bypass Pratap for the throne of Mewar. His rivals argued from a position of survival. Many courtiers favored crowning a half-brother who was willing to negotiate a peaceful, wealthy transition into the Mughal administration, rather than risking a war that seemed impossible to win. Resolute tone, Pratap refused to consider a compromise. He stated that while a Rajput's head could be lost in battle, it would never bow to a foreign authority. By taking the throne, Pratap committed Mewar to a specific ideological path. He decided that the survival of the state's independence was worth the immense material suffering that would inevitably follow. In an open field, Mewar's forces were no match for the Mughal military. The empire held an overwhelming advantage in manpower, heavy artillery, and logistics. To counter this, Pratap moved his operations into the Aravalli range. He turned the terrain of his youth into a strategic asset, using the mountains to neutralize the enemy's numerical superiority. His forces utilized decentralized asymmetric tactics. They ambushed supply lines, used narrow mountain passes to trap larger units, and launched rapid strikes from dense cover before retreating into the hills. This strategy required extreme mobility. His horse, Chetak, became a primary tool for battlefield survival, allowing Pratap to navigate high-stakes combat and escape capture in the difficult terrain. To maintain this mobile army, the kingdom relied on the personal sacrifice of its subjects. Loyalists like Bama Shah surrendered their personal fortunes to ensure the unfortified forces remained armed and fed. Pratap demonstrated that by weaponizing the environment, a smaller force could sustain a war of attrition against a global superpower. While the battlefield tactics were effective, the cost in the forest camps was extreme. A prolonged Mughal blockade caused severe economic strangulation for those following the king. The formal structures of the state vanished. The king and his family were forced into a nomadic existence, moving constantly to avoid discovery by imperial patrols. This period marked the low point of the resistance. The family faced chronic hunger, eventually being reduced to eating bread made from wild grass. This was the true pressure point of his leadership. Pratap faced the constant temptation to yield to the empire, simply to end the starvation of his own family. He concluded that sovereignty required a specific type of endurance, the willingness to accept total personal destitution as the price of maintaining independence. Seeing that military force had not broken the resistance, the Emperor Akbar initiated a campaign of diplomatic and psychological pressure. The scale of the offer was immense. Diplomatic envoys arrived with the promise of safety, the return of his royal titles, and extreme personal wealth if he would accept vassal status. These offers of immediate luxury were delivered to a camp that was actively starving. It was a direct attempt to use his physical suffering to force a political concession. Pratap's rejection was total. He informed the messengers that the independence of Mewar was not a commodity and could not be purchased at any price. This refusal turned a dispute over land into a direct collision between imperial expansion and a requirement for total independence. Throughout his life, Pratap lost nearly every material asset he possessed. His ancestral stone forts and the wealth of his treasury were surrendered to the empire. These weapons represent the tools of a decades-long war of attrition. By keeping his mobile forces active, Pratap compelled the Mughal military to expend resources and manpower that far exceeded the value of the territory they had captured. His life provided a new definition of what a kingdom actually was. He demonstrated that a state is not its architecture, its borders, or its gold. It existed instead in the sustained commitment of a population and a refusal to compromise on the principle of self-governance. This refusal to surrender created a historical precedent in the region, proving that imperial authority could be successfully denied through sustained, decentralized defiance. While the price of this independence was total material and personal loss, it preserved a political identity that remained long after the imperial borders had moved on.